From the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, this is Nebraska Farmcast, and I'm Ryan Evans. On this episode, we'll continue discussion about the complexities of the Farm Bill and the current state of agricultural policy. After passing an extension of the 2018 Farm Bill in late 2023, Congress gave itself one more year to enact updated legislation, but debate is expected to continue as competing interests show few signs of compromise so far. In his latest monthly policy column for Nebraska Farmer Magazine, University of Nebraska-Lincoln Extension Associate Professor and Policy Specialist Brad Lubben looks into these competing interests and ongoing policy debates surrounding the Farm Bill and the impact they may have on Nebraska's agricultural community. He joins me now. Hi, Brad.
Good to be with you.
Thanks for being here. Can you just start off by reviewing again some of the challenges that this 2018 Farm Bill extension has created for passing a new Farm Bill this year?
Well, the extension of the 2018 Farm Bill in late 2023 was really sort of the fail-safe measure to make sure that we had policy in place in 2024, but yet a reminder of the fact of how difficult it has been to pass a new Farm Bill amid ongoing negotiations or even deliberations in Congress. It's been difficult to pass farm bills. It was difficult to pass a 2014 Farm Bill. It was difficult to pass the 2018 Farm Bill. And now the same difficulty is before us to try and pass what's supposed to be the new Farm Bill. So here we have an extension. Here we have a debate that extends into 2024.
And in your column, you noted the shift from the traditional bipartisan support for farm bills in the past to a more fragmented landscape of competing interests this time around. So can you talk about how this has affected the process and prospects for a farm bill this year?
Right. You know, historically, we saw farm policy, and we really saw two big partners in a coalition, the Farm and Food Coalition, or the Rural and Urban Coalition. That was really the partnership that got a farm bill across the finish line for the last 50 years. The farm portion or the farm partner always looking for the strength of the safety net, Title I commodity programs, and more recently Title XI crop insurance embedded in there as well. But that was the farm component of the Farm Bill, along with conservation and a few other smaller titles. The Food Coalition or the non-farm urban coalition often focused first and foremost on food assistance. Title IV of the Farm Bill, the nutrition title that funds the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. That partnership has existed for the better part, as I said, of more than 50 years now. And that was really what ensured that a farm bill was much more bipartisan than it ever was a partisan debate. That has been tested more in recent years, not just across partisan lines, but across all sort of interest lines. The Farm Coalition isn't complete and unanimous in its preferences for a farm bill. You've got traditional commodity and safety net programs, but you also have interests and preferences for emerging enterprises and value-added and other local food systems, as an example. You've got a conservation partner that's been in there as well for the many decades, but they're somewhat split between those who have been traditional partners on conservation programs versus those who have been interested in trying to shift funds out of traditional programs in favor of more environmental focused programs. And then you have the food policy sector, where we have the traditional foodies, if you can call them that fundamentally were there to fight poverty and malnutrition and food security, and were the partners on passing a farm bill because it contained food assistance. You have what we might call neo-foodies, or the new foodies, and they're as interested in, or maybe more interested in, the kinds of policies that drive the new food markets, local foods, organic, value-added, niche, specialty, enhanced trait, all of those interests, consumer interests and preferences that are showing up, pushing for a different kind of food and food delivery system. Those two sectors don't necessarily agree on exactly what food policy should look like either. So at almost every avenue here, we have much more participation in the policy process. As a result, it's also much more diverse and much less of a consensus on what we should get.
And back here in Nebraska, you mentioned in the column the Nebraska Rural Poll conducted by the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and in the latest results there is broad support for farm income safety net programs and conservation programs among Nebraskans. So if you can talk about that and how those preferences align or conflict with the national debate on the Farm Bill.
Right. Well, it's interesting to see. I think it's a good indicator of how the national debate plays out. But when we ask rural Nebraskans, this is outside of the Lincoln and Omaha metro areas, we asked rural Nebraskans what they knew of the Farm Bill and then what they thought about the different parts. Generally speaking, rural Nebraskans were in favor of or strongly supported the various parts of the Farm Bill: a safety net for producers, conservation programs to protect natural resources, food assistance programs, various other rural development and other programs as well. When we asked them what they thought of the overall Farm Bill or how familiar they were with the overall Farm Bill, most of them are unfamiliar with it. In other words, they're supportive of the things that are typically in it, but they're also typically very unfamiliar with the total bill. And that's partly how the omnibus policy works in Washington. We put things together to attract a coalition based on you like this and you like that, and together you're supportive of the whole, even if the whole is not necessarily something you fully comprehend.
And on that point, the rural poll also found many Nebraskans in rural areas are not very familiar with the Farm Bill as a whole. So how do you think that would affect local perspectives and discussions about agricultural policy?
I think the reality is we're supportive of the parts of the bill that we're familiar with and that we know affect us. So if you looked in the rural communities, who's most affected by the farm income safety net? Well, that's producers. And lo and behold, ag producers in our rural poll were more supportive of that than other groups. But so was Main Street. And why might Main Street be supportive of an ag safety net? Well, it's a reminder that what happens on the farm, the economic well-being of the farm translates into some of the economic well-being of Main Street business. So you can get a sense of why groups are in favor of the things that they know about and that they know affect them. The fact that they don't know or don't see the entirety of the bill, that's just a reminder that policy gets very complex. And so what we watch in Washington in terms of the development of a bill and even the deliberation that gets us to the end game, it looks very confusing and it looks sort of difficult to comprehend or accept. And yet it's because there are all those parts in there to garner the support of the various constituencies needed in order to get the coalition that gets it across the finish line.
So is there anything you're watching for that has to happen this year to make this happen, the new Farm Bill?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting here. We're beginning a lot of education across the state here in the coming weeks because producers, in fact, face a new decision. New Farm Bill or not, producers have a farm program enrollment decision coming up here by March 15th. So there's a lot of early action already ready to go. But then there's a debate. Will Congress get something done this year before the extension expires again this September? To be a bit of a pragmatist here, if it's going to get done, it seemingly has to get done in the first half of the year. If you don't get a new Farm Bill done by July, it's hard to imagine getting it done in the middle of what will be the general election campaign. And if it doesn't get done then, it's left to a lame duck session of Congress after a general election, or maybe even depending upon how the election plays out and who does or doesn't control Congress and the White House, it may be something that gets pushed off to the next Congress and the next administration. And that leaves you with a reality that late this year that we're dealing with the need for another extension. So if you want to see a new Farm Bill, if you want to see a rigorous debate on a new Farm Bill, it seemingly has to happen relatively soon.
And you mentioned the farm program decisions, which are still looming for agricultural producers out there. And as you mentioned, doing some statewide education across Nebraska for that. So we encourage listeners to check out our Center for Ag Profitability's website for a schedule of those dates and locations. That's cap.ag.org. cap.unl.edu/farmbill. And on our website, you can also find a link to this article we've been talking about, Brad's latest column for Nebraska Farmer Magazine, his monthly policy column, which will link you to the full article on the Farm Progress website. Brad Lubben is, once again, an Extension Policy Associate Professor here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and we want to thank you very much for your time today, Brad.
Thank you.
Nebraska Farmcast is a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For the latest research-based information and education resources to manage your farm or ranch operation, visit our website at cap.unl.edu. That's cap.unl.edu.